Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jonathan Plasek, the media director here at The Gathering. This time I am joined by one of our preaching pastors, Nate Jones. Good afternoon, morning.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good and well.
What does preaching pastor mean?
Well, I think it means that since we have two campuses, that I'm usually at one or the other,
Yeah.
preaching pretty much every Sunday.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
I would say that's probably the main thing I do on Sundays for sure.
Yeah.
That's my main role.
Yeah. So what about during the week? So like some people are like, oh, well, he's just preaching on Sunday. That takes 4 hours, which I know is completely false. But what else do you do during the week?
Well, preaching does take a lot of, or at least we do. We take it seriously.
Yeah.
And so a lot of preparation, studying, preparing for the text. So we take the text and discuss it as pastors. We're walking through all the texts that we're preaching through.
Mm-hmm.
All our pastors kind of sit around and talk about it at the beginning of the week. And the rest of the week, I know Pastor Matthias, myself, will converse about that throughout the week.
Yeah.
Studying, reading commentaries, reading original languages and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So really, we just take it really seriously. We want
Yeah.
to make sure that what we, what we preach and teach on Sunday mornings is well thought out and delivered. And I don't know exactly how many hours you spend on that, but probably upwards of 10 or 12 hours of study through the week just to make sure we understand it.
Yeah.
And can be able to know what we're talking about.
Yeah. And that's before you write it. I mean, that's the prep time.
Correct.
Because then your 10 to 12 is prep, and then there's the writing it too,
correct.
right?
Yeah, usually, anywhere between 10 or 12 hours of studying, just preparing, writing notes. So on a typical week, Mondays are, pastors' days. We pray together a lot of that day. We share about the church, things that are going on, how we can care for our people. And then usually Tuesday mornings start the process of, reading the text. I usually read the text 4 or 5 times, just not reading any commentaries or anything, just reading it over and over again. So I'm familiar with the story, familiar with the text. And then begins the process of researching and trying to understand it. So looking at the backgrounds of, the culture and, what's going on in the original audience, how they would hear this, the author, all those things.
Yeah.
And jotting down notes and, doing that for a couple of days. And then usually on Thursday mornings, it's like, okay, let's compile all that information.
Yeah.
And, goes from 10 to 15 pages of notes and stuff that we've gotten, really kind of bringing that into a smaller time.
Yeah.
So, Thursdays usually are kind of like sermon writing days where we actually write them and, make it into a 25-minute or 40-minute presentation on those things.
Yeah, for those who have not joined us either online or in person that are watching these, the sermon time has always been something that's been talked about, but it's not like, I don't think we've ever openly addressed it just in general of like, say, because we're a Southern Baptist church. So like traditionally 60 minutes is like the whole service. And I really, you can disagree with me or tell me I'm wrong, but I think if the Lord has laid on your heart 45 minutes worth of content, then you should present 45 minutes worth of preaching time. Like, right?
Again, you go, denominations, for instance, some of my friends, African-American churches up in New York, I've been to there and worship with them. You're talking 2-3 hours of service time. So you go down to other countries where I visited on mission trips. Theirs are go on well into the afternoon.
Yeah.
And then there's churches that are, have multiple services, and so we have to get these in. And so, to say that this is the way we do it is different for all types of denominations and churches, even within denominations. And so we try here, I know Pastor Matthias and myself, what we talk about is there's a balance. Like, we understand that to go too long, could be often distracting.
Sure.
We have children's ministry, stuff like that are watching the kids.
Yeah.
And so we have to be mindful of those things. But really, when it comes down to it, the question we ask is not how long it needs to be, but more so, are we being faithful to the text? That's the thing that I know that one day I will be asked or, confronted by the Lord is, were you faithful in what I asked you to do, not how long your sermons were. So our mentality
48 minutes on September.
Our mentality is we want to be faithful to the text, and sometimes that might be a 25 to 30 minute sermon. But we just really feel like in order to really grasp and understand it, it takes a little bit of time.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're spending 10, 12 hours digging into these things,
to
dwindle it down to a 20-minute thing is often difficult. So we're trying to, again, be better and become better at presenting these things. And if that means we can be more concise in those kind of things, we often look to each other, me and Pastor Matthias, the other preaching pastor, to get better at presenting those things. And if we can do that in less time, great. But that's not really our main focus.
Yeah.
We just want to be faithful to it.
What's the benefit for people who, we are 2 campuses, 1 church. So what's the benefit of having another, obviously the 6 pastors, but then also another guy that's preaching that same text that week? Like, what's the benefit? Because you've seen both sides of it, right? I mean, you were at the Plaza campus prior to the merger. Like, you were doing everything, right? Did you have a sounding board there? What's the benefit of having kind of the sounding board with you and Matthias and then the other guys?
Yeah, and by the way, preaching and getting ready for the sermon time on Sunday is not all that we do. I mean, we're first and foremost pastors of and shepherds, and so we're still involved in all the inner workings of the church, and so I still help out with the youth ministry and leading worship every once in a while too, and hospital visits and caring for our people, and so. There's that aspect as well that we all as pastors do, but the benefit is, whenever I feel for guys that are the only pastor on staff and they have to do all those things by themselves, and then, they have to preach a text, and the cool thing is when you have a team of people and specifically another preaching pastor who's actually going to be preaching that, is to say, hey, I've been looking at this, what do you think about this? Am I correct in this? Is my application point, is that on par with what we think the text is saying? And sometimes it's like, that's a good application, but I don't think that's what the text is saying. And you're like, okay, well, so it gives you another sounding board of somebody to say, hey, how do you read this? How, in your study, what have you seen? And am I correct in my assessment here? And, our sermons are not exactly the same.
Right, exactly.
We have the same text and usually pretty close to the same thing because, again, we're studying the text and we're studying all these sources, and so we will come to the main points, but we have different styles, we have different illustrations, we have different ways of presenting these things, and so it allows our personalities to be unique in the way we present things, but the core of what we're saying usually are the same, and so it allows us during the week to just say, hey, are we correct in these things? And it's a huge benefit.
Because you don't want to be a false teacher, right?
Correct.
I mean, like that's
we
the
don't
number one thing.
that.
You have the responsibility of preaching the Word of God, which is pretty heavy.
We take that seriously.
Yeah,
we really, really do.
Well, okay, so I know that you have kind of pastors in your family background too. You can tell us about your family a little bit too. And then,
I grew up in a pastor's home. Actually, my dad was a pastor when I was 2 or 3 years old. He surrendered to the ministry, and I remember that even as a young man, the change that meant for our family. And so he was a youth pastor. He was also a senior pastor, and he just recently retired a month ago. And so I grew up in the church. Never wanted to be a pastor. In fact, I saw how hard it was, and the blessings of again, growing up, I loved it. I loved that my dad did that, but it was hard, and so I had no desire to be in ministry at all. In fact, I ran from that. That's another conversation for another time. But ran from that and did not want to pursue that. But the Lord had other plans and ran after me, and so I grew up in that. My dad being a pastor, and my uncle's a pastor. So there's pastors in our family.
And then you got so tell us about your family.
Okay, well, married to Teresa. We've been married. This year's gonna be our 20th anniversary, which is crazy to think about. We met at Southwest Baptist University down in Bolivar, and we have 2 kids. Kingston, who is at the time of the recording now, is 14, and Ruby's about to turn 11 here in a couple months. So we have one in the youth group, and the other one is about to be in the youth group. Going in 6th grade next year.
Dude,
so
are you and David? Your kids are the same age. It's kind of
crazy. I think they are. I
mean, it's because he said 14 and 12. I was like, wow, you guys have. That's kind of the awesome thing, and maybe you can speak to this because Pastor West did in his interview of like how God's plan has worked for this church, like bringing you, Matthias, and Wes together. You know, I think that story's awesome.
Yeah, it really is.
general.
I mean, yeah, I served at a church in Mount Vernon, Missouri, for 6.5 years.
Yeah.
That was my first real ministry job out of college, and I was there as a student pastor, and then wanted to go to seminary, wanted to come up back home. I grew
Yeah.
up in Kansas City area, and so kind of wanted to be back in this area. And so, yeah, I came on staff at Plaza Heights Baptist Church as a youth pastor. And I'm sure Wes mentioned this, but my very first day, I remember walking in and moving my books into the office, moving all my stuff in, and I get a phone call, an unknown number, and I happen to pick it up, and it was this guy named Wes Wakefield. Never met him, never heard of him, never heard of Nolan Road Baptist Church. And he simply just said, "Hey, welcome to the area. Heard that you're new here, and we just want to welcome you. In fact, we'll go grab lunch sometime." Him and another guy named Matthias, they started to get together for lunches and just to kind of talk about ministry. And so we did, and we kind of kicked off this friendship over a few years. Had never any conversations about anything like as far as a merger or anything like that. But 7 or 8 years later, it became something that we realized that God was doing something. And so it's really crazy to think about. But we did all kinds of events together. We did lock-ins, our youth groups. We went ski trips together.
Yep.
Disciple Now weekends, retreats. We did a lot of stuff together. And so, again, not with any intent of ever thinking about churches merging together, but Lord in His sovereignty and providence, He provided. And so, when we did merge, I was invited to stay on and be a part of the team, which is an amazing blessing.
So what is one of your favorite stories that you have from your time in ministry?
Okay, well, that's really broad. I don't know that I have one. There's just been a lot of funny things that in ministry. Again, you're dealing with teenagers. You're dealing with different people, and so funny things happen.
Yeah.
And in the moment, they're scary, and then when you look back, you're like, you laugh. You have to laugh.
It's hysterical,
I mean, I could tell you one just off the top of my mind things that happened. I remember one time for gathering, or first Wednesdays. We played a game, and we drew a name for people to come up on stage, and I won't mention the name, but I said, "Come on up." And we're when you ask some volunteers to come up on stage, some people were like, "Yeah," they're kind of
It's like Price is Right.
Yeah, they're all excited. Others are kind of like, "Oh no, I didn't really want to be called up on stage," and so I thought that's what it was. And so I called this person, "Hey, come on up," and they weren't coming up, and I was like, "Come on, you can do it. Let's go." And I kept, getting all the crowd riled up, like, "Come on, let's come on." I don't know if we chanted this person's name.
Come on, you can do it.
And then finally, after we kept going with it, she yelled from the back, "I'm breastfeeding." And that was really funny, but I was real embarrassed at the time. So there's that one. That one sticks out. I think of times where, we left kids places, and some of your parents are like, "What?" And it's like, "Yeah, well, we didn't really, didn't purposely leave." But there's just things that, you count people, and you're banking on these kids being somewhat responsible. You tell them, "Hey, we're meeting at this location to leave," and they need to be responsible, and sometimes we miscount. There was one time there was a girl that we were at an big event in St. Louis, and we went to the mall to eat at the food court, and we said, "Do not leave the food court." Well, she left the food court. We didn't know that. We got on our bus to leave, and we were about 40 minutes from the arena that we were at this event. And this person called me, and she said, where are you at? And I said, "We're in section 312. She goes, "No, like, where are you at in the food court?" And I said, "What?" And she was left in the food court. We hopped back on the bus, went and picked her up. Those kind of things.
Yeah.
Literally probably took years off my life from, just so scared about the possibility of, these parents entrust us. And, we're 25, 26 years old as youth pastors. And there's so many of those kind of stories. And let's see, one more.
One more.
What'd I say? What is that one we talked about the other day?
What? Oh, about the giving part.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Well,
this came up recently. I had somebody that here at the church would leave gifts in the mailbox and have a note on it or something, and it's like crock pot and things in boxes, new things that were given to us, and we were like, "What is this coming from? Did we order this?" And no, we didn't order this. And so I'm trying to investigate what are these items. Well, a person came in and said, "Hey, Pastor, have you been getting my gifts?" And I was like, "Oh, is that you? Like you've been giving
you've been dropping off
these gifts? Thank you. Why did you do that?" She said, "Well, you've been preaching about giving and preaching about being generous with things, and so she's like, I don't have a lot of things, and so I just wanted to give you those things." So I said, "Well, you said you didn't have a lot of things. Where are you getting these?"
Where are they coming from?
Well, fortunately, this person was stealing them from other people's front porches and
Just passing them on.
passing them on to us at the church, and I had to kind of laugh because like, what are you doing? I thought this was gonna be a big scandal. I have all these gifts from different things, and what this person was doing was, they said, no, don't worry, we're not. I'm not stealing them. I'm paying it forward. I was like, "What do you mean by that?" And she said, "Well, what I'm doing is I'm taking the items, but I'm leaving a nice note and telling them that, hey, I'm taking this so that this item does not become an idol in your life." And I was like, I think we're misapplying the text a little bit. So those are just kind of stories we look at. Okay, I need to be very clear in what we preach and because different people take the wrong application.
I'll take it literally
to the text. Man, there's so many stories like that of just funny things that happen in ministry during the week, but also on Sundays. We're dealing with people, and we're messy, and we got all kinds of stuff. So there's all kinds of funny stuff like happens all the time in ministry like that.
I mean, we're human, right? Like that's the thing is, I think, I talked about this with Pastor Dave. It's just like God used humans in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, obviously Jesus is that perfect human that obviously is our savior, but then there's like all these flawed people. We're human beings, right?
That's right.
So we have to be part of the story. So let's see. We went through your family. Talked about this. You're a Chiefs fan.
Oh, I am a Chiefs fan.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, big Chiefs fan. Always have been. Royals fan too, but mostly Chiefs. Yeah. Always have been. Even in those really, really rough years of the early 2000s. I mean, I stuck with it. Man. I used to go to games for like $10-15.
Yep.
And
the good old days.
Yeah, and I stuck with it, and I believed, and was frustrated, and I stuck with it. I'm proud that I did because we're really enjoying things.
Who'd you pick to win the Super Bowl?
Well,
because David asked yesterday.
I did pick the Bills to win, but that's because if the Chiefs don't win, then I'll still have something to kind of be able to brag about. But I do believe the Chiefs will win. Just for the purpose of this
silly
thing
game
that we do.
I think
but
cool.
I was able to be at the 13-second game last year.
Yeah.
That's hard. One of the things about being a pastor is that you don't get to go to a lot of Chiefs games that are playing on Sundays. Well, last few years, some of those games have been on prime time, so I have been able to go, but the tickets are so high, and so I save my money all year for a big game, and so I literally put money aside, and I got to go to that AFC. Or it wasn't that, it was a divisional playoff game, that 13-second game. Talk about taking years off your life in youth ministry, staying up all night and having heart attacks about, all these kids, worried about all this stuff. That I probably lost some years off my life during that game too.
Oh, dude.
So
it was really good.
It's fun to be a Chiefs fan.
So Nate primarily, he offices out of both campuses.
Yep.
So you can go by either campus depending upon the day and find pastors.
Yeah, and again, that's one of the benefits of having two preaching pastors is that we have the blessing of being able to go to both campuses, and usually it's every other week. Yeah. We're switching on and off, and that's really cool. We really love getting to know both campuses and being around all of our people.
Yeah, you get to invest in both campuses, which is, I think it's rare.
Yeah, and we office during the week. We're really at both campuses. Yeah. Try to do at least two days at Nolan, 2 days at Plaza, and so we try and be available as much as possible.
Yeah. Okay, last question.
Okay.
We'll wrap you up. Why, say somebody's watching this video, and they're like, okay, I got to know Pastor Nate a little bit. Why would Pastor Nate say, hey, I'm looking for a church home. Why should the Gathering be my church home?
We are. I think we're real. We're authentic people. Yeah. We really don't try and do the bells and whistles and things, and just because it's not who we are, and so that's something that I I love about specifically our services is I know, because I'm in the inner workings of it. I know the time and the energy it goes into and thought that goes into all the aspects of our ministry. There's purpose behind everything that we do, and we try and do it with excellence as best we can. And so I love that about our services. I also, I love that we have a children's ministry and a youth ministry. I really do. Now that I have one in both and about to have 2 students in our student ministry, again, I see the work that Matt and our children's directors, Linda and Marcia, put into our kids ministry, and the volunteers that teach them and come alongside. I love the vision of the family ministry. Again, I was part of that for years, but the vision of the family ministry to come alongside parents. Now, as a parent, I know that my kids are loved and cared for, and they're being taught the scriptures, taught the Bible, and that they're supporting me as a parent. So, for me, that's what I want. I love that I can know people's names. I love that they know my name. I love that we have an identity here, and it's really truly a family. We're somewhat a larger church, but because of the 2 campuses, we're able to really become familiar with one another. Yeah. And to the point where if I'm gone or somebody else is gone, I notice, we have, hey, I missed you Sunday, and so that's the benefit. I just love that we're a small church in the sense of we can know one another. Yeah. So all those things are things that I think the gathering has to offer families.
Well, so if you come check out the gathering at either our Plaza campus or Nolan campus, you will see either Nate one week or the next week, and then you'll see Matthias vice versa. So it's a beautiful thing. Get to know Pastor Nate. If you do, if you enjoy the video, let us know, and we'll see you next time.